Hello and welcome to WION Live Broadcast from London. I'm Ollie Barrett, and coming up we've got the latest on stories developing around the world. First up, the headlines. The World Health Organization warns of 700,000 more deaths from COVID-19 in Europe by March, taking the total to above 2.2 million if that unfolds. Downing Street is forced to clarify that UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson is physically well and has a full grasp on the Premiership. This after concern from within his own party about his leadership. China slams a US invitation to Taiwan for a summit on democracy. Beijing reiterates its claim to Taiwan and says the island is an inalienable part of its territory. China's birth rate hits a record low, highlighting a looming demographic crisis for its workforce. Apple sues the Israeli spyware maker at the center of the Pegasus surveillance scandal, seeking to block NSO Group from targeting over 1 billion iPhones in circulation. And a NASA mission to deliberately smash a spacecraft into an asteroid to see if its course can be altered blasts off from California. The World Health Organization says Europe's COVID-19 death toll could top 2.2 million by the end of this winter if current trends continue. The WHO says it expects high or extreme stress in intensive care units in 49 out of 53 countries in the region between now and March 2022. Europe's return as the pandemic's epicenter is being blamed on a number of factors, from the sluggish vaccine uptake in some nations to the highly contagious Delta variant and the easing of restrictions as winter hit. The global health body says a further 700,000 people in the continent could die by March, in addition to the 1.5 million who've already succumbed to the virus. Its data suggests daily COVID-related deaths in Europe have almost doubled from what they were in September. In the European Union, 67.7% of the population is fully vaccinated, but the data varies widely between countries, with low take-up in several in the continent's east. Austria is witnessing an uptick in its vaccination rates days into a new full national lockdown. The daily number of vaccinations has grown from 1,000 a day 2 weeks ago to around 12,000 a day this week. France has recorded over 30,000 new COVID cases in 24 hours, with the pace of infections rising despite social distancing measures and a drive there as well to boost vaccinations. In Germany, intensive care beds are swiftly filling up, and the worst hit regions of the country have ordered tightened measures. Germany's expected to make coronavirus jabs mandatory for soldiers. The move comes as the army is preparing to deploy forces to help local authorities with vaccinations, tests and other efforts. Next to China, where new data shows the birth rate has plummeted to its lowest level since 1978. Numbers released by the country's National Bureau of Statistics show that there were 8.5 births per 1,000 people in 2020. For the first time in decades, that number's fallen below 10, the lowest figure since Communist China was founded in 1949. Demographers attribute this sharp decline to the falling number of women of childbearing age and the impact of COVID-19. Earlier in May, a once-in-a-decade census showed that China's population grew at its slowest rate since the 1960s. China relaxed its one-child policy, one of the world's strictest family planning regulations, in 2016, allowing couples to have 2 children. Earlier this year, this was extended to 3 children. Local authorities have also been relaxing other limits and have been easing costs associated with education and child rearing. But the latest data on the country's birth rate feeds into growing concerns about maintaining the size of the country's workforce as China seeks ongoing economic growth. Apple has filed a lawsuit against Israeli cyber firm NSO Group over alleged surveillance and targeting of US Apple users with its Pegasus spyware. The Silicon Valley giant also seeks to ban NSO Group from using any Apple software, device services or devices to prevent further abuse. Apple's suit has added to the troubles faced by an embattled NSO, which has been accused of targeting and spying on human rights workers and journalists.
Apple is suing an Israeli cyber firm and its parent company for allegedly targeting its users with spyware. On Tuesday, the iPhone maker said it had filed a lawsuit against NSO Group and its parent company, OSY Technologies. The Israeli company's Pegasus software infects smartphones to enable the extraction of messages, photos and emails, record calls and secretly activate microphones. It's allegedly been used to target journalists, human rights activists and politicians. In its complaint, Apple said NSO's tools have been used in 2021 to, quote, target and attack Apple customers, and that US citizens have been surveilled by NSO's spyware on mobile devices that can and do cross international borders. Apple alleged that NSO Group created more than 100 fake Apple ID user credentials to carry out its attacks. It said that its servers were not hacked, but the NSO misused and manipulated them to deliver the attacks on Apple users. Apple is seeking to also ban NSO Group from using any Apple software, services or devices. NSO has always said its software is intended to be used by governments and law enforcement against criminals and terrorists. In a statement, it added that thousands of lives have been saved through the use of its tools. Apple plans to donate $10 million, as well as any damages recovered in the lawsuit, to cyber surveillance research groups.
3 months since the Taliban swept back into control in Afghanistan, its acting government has issued 9 guidelines for the media, including banning shows with women. The directive came from the Ministry for the Promotion of Virtue and Prevention of Vice. Despite pledges from the Taliban of being more moderate in this period of control of the country, the new rules concern international rights groups. The guidelines include making it compulsory for women news presenters to wear hijabs. Women's rights activists say the term is too vague, since most women in the country already wear headscarves in some form. It also bans shows with female actors. Another vague rule says that men on screen must wear proper clothes, and footage of men exposing intimate body parts cannot be aired. Also banned are films which are against Islamic or Afghan values, entertainment shows that insult Afghans, foreign films promoting foreign cultural values, and programs with Prophet Muhammad and other revered figures. Many channels in the country air shows produced in India and Turkey to fill airtime. Under these new rules, most of those shows would be disqualified, making it harder for channels to run enough content. The new rules have drawn criticism from Human Rights Watch, which says media freedom is fast deteriorating in the country. During the Taliban's previous stint in power, there was no Afghan media since television was banned. Several reports have also emerged of Afghan journalists being harassed for covering protests. Next to Turkey, which is sinking deeper into an economic crisis. On Tuesday, the Turkish lira plunged to record lows with a 15% fall. It later recovered slightly from that historic drop. The currency depreciation accelerating in Turkey while inflation soars to nearly 20% is eating deeply into people's earnings. The Turkish currency's free fall has been fueled by recent sharp rate cuts, which were defended by President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. Bowing to pressure from him, the Turkish central bank cut its policy rate from 16 to 15%. Erdogan has vowed to win what he calls his economic war of independence. He's known for his belief that high interest rates cause inflation instead of helping keep it down. Turkey is facing the worst currency crisis since August of 2018. The lira has been by far the worst performer globally this year. The annual inflation rate has reached nearly 20%. That's 4 times the government's target. So in a gesture of protest, some shop owners have been burning fake dollars, and many Turks are reconsidering expenditure from weekly grocery shopping to holiday plans.
Sabahlara kadar uyuyamıyor. Sabahlara kadar nasıl gidecek diye bir dert yakınıyor. Kiralar birikmiş, mal satılmıyor, alınmıyor. Hiçbir şekilde derdimize derman olunmuyor.
The leader of the opposition Republican People's Parties blamed the currency freefall on President Erdogan, who has led the country since 2003.
Kardeşlerim, burası Türkiye. Anlı şanlı Türkiye.
Sen korkma, bu millet senin ne mal olduğunu gayet iyi öğrendi ve şunu sana söyleyeyim. Sen artık bu saatten sonra Türkiye Cumhuriyeti Devleti'nin temel bir milli güvenlik sorunusun. Temel bir milli güvenlik sorunusun.
An unknown bidder has got his or her hands on a rare scientific manuscript, which offers a glimpse into the mind of the genius and perhaps the greatest physicist of all time, Albert Einstein. The document, which outlines calculations that led to Einstein's theory of relativity and changed the course of modern science, was sold for $13 million.
A rare manuscript by Albert Einstein that changed the course of modern science was sold for $13 million on Tuesday. The 54-page document was handwritten between 1913 and 1914 in Zurich by Einstein and his colleague and confidant, Swiss engineer Michel Bessot. The manuscript was originally expected to fetch $3.5 million, but went for nearly 4 times the pre-sale estimate. It features early calculations that led to Einstein's general theory of relativity, building on his theory of special relativity from 1905, encapsulated in the famous equation E equals mc square. Christie's, which handled the sale, called the notes without a doubt the most valuable Einstein manuscript ever to come to auction.
It's a manuscript they worked on between 1913 and 1914. That's also what makes it particularly important, since working documents by Einstein before 1919 are extremely rare. Einstein is someone who kept very few notes, so the mere fact that the manuscript survived and made its way to us already makes it absolutely extraordinary.
D'avant 1919 sont extrêmement rares.
Einstein's theory of relativity revolutionized his field by bringing in new ways of looking at the movement of objects in space and time. He also made major contributions to quantum mechanics and won the Nobel Prize for Physics in 1921. The year 2021 marks the centenary year of the Nobel Prize to the great physicist.
What I find particularly touching with reading this manuscript is that we can have this sort of monolithic and infallible image of Einstein as an absolute genius, who from the first calculation finds the right equation. But this manuscript shows that Einstein was intelligent, but he was a scientist just like any other. And like any other scientist, he goes through phases of doubt, of hypotheses that are confirmed or not, through verification, through errors.
The genius also became a pop culture icon thanks to his dry witticisms, his trademark unruly hair, mustache, and bushy eyebrows. Albert Einstein died in 1955, aged 76, and is recognized as one of the greatest theoretical physicists of all time. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
Also auctioned at Christie's, a rare carpet from the Imperial Palace in Beijing's Forbidden City, which has been hidden from the public eye for the last 34 years. It fetched $7.7 million at the auction in Paris. The carpet was woven in the Ming dynasty in the 16th century and was placed under the emperor's throne.
This particular carpet, due to its shape and its decoration, was woven specifically for the emperor's throne, and this was a square format raised above the floor level on which the emperor's throne would have been placed. This is one of only 7 complete dragon throne carpets that remain in Western collections. There are 9 other carpets, but these remain within the Palace Museum in Beijing. Of course, they will never come out of that museum collection. So, really, this is one of very, very few, and it is in particularly good, a good state of preservation.
NASA has launched a spacecraft on a mission to smash into an asteroid and test whether it would be possible to knock a speeding space rock off course if it were to ever threaten the Earth. The DART spacecraft, short for Double Asteroid Redirection Test, lifted off from Vandenberg Space Force Base in California atop a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket. The mission is being billed as humanity's first asteroid deflection test mission. It's hoped the test could one day save Earth from an incoming rock from space.
Stage 2 first ignition. Jettison.
So we just got confirmation of MECO stage separation and stage 2 ignition.
We chose to do this demonstration at a binary asteroid. It's called Didymos. This is actually approximately the shape of the main asteroid. It's called Didymos A, and its moon, Didymos B. What DART will do is DART will hit the secondary. When it hits the moon, it will change the orbit period. And when it changes the orbit period, it affects the timing of when the moon moves in front of or behind the primary.
Well, if all goes well, in September 2022, it'll slam at 24,000 kilometers an hour into a 160-meter wide asteroid Dimorphos. DART's goal is a crash that will slow Dimorphos down. The DART technique could prove useful for altering the course of an asteroid years or decades before it heads towards Earth.
We're going to bump into this kind of, I call it kind of stadium-sized, like soccer stadium-sized asteroid that is in orbit around the body that is about 5 times larger. So that's what we're going to do, and then measure really the change of orbit for that secondary body.
The high-speed smash-up will occur around 11 million kilometers away and within full view of Earth's ground telescopes. Scientists constantly search for asteroids and plot their courses to determine whether they could hit Earth.
system.
What a spectacular view of DART.
Yep.
Just floating away from the Falcon 9 second stage.
And you can see.
The world's second oldest amusement park, founded in 1843, Tivoli, has been lit with over 1 million lights to mark the beginning of the Christmas season. Tourists are being welcomed by Santa Claus, fairy lights, spruce garlands and Christmas tree chains. We will leave you with those visuals from the heart of Copenhagen. I'm Ollie Barrett. Thanks very much indeed for watching WION World is One.
Well, I heard a lot about Tivoli before I came to Copenhagen. I got told it was magical in the winter time, so we've come specifically to Copenhagen to see Tivoli, and it's kind of exactly what I thought it would be. It's amazing. Beautiful place.
It's really beautiful. I love seeing all the lights, and I love the hearts, and the hearts that I see over Copenhagen. And it's just really charming.
You can see everyone puts a lot of effort into making it all like very Christmassy and stuff.
You love Christmas as well, don't you? So
yeah,
I think
Christmas,
coming here, it just makes you, it really gets you in the mood for Christmas, which is nice.
There are many other. This is right, Arab.